Welcome to the Broadway Shuffle with Zyler, Clayton, and Conrad. I am Brennan. Wherever you are and however you may be listening, whether on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, we are so glad you are here. We're getting into a pretty hot topic debate that we posed on Twitter this week. What happens if Texas Tech goes 9-3? That is something we're going to get into on the show next. But first, if this is your first time here, we're so glad you're here. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. We have a ton of exciting things coming up here as we get closer to football season, so we do not want you to miss any of our content. So, Z, I want to go to you first, man. You posed this question on our Twitter, and it's kind of funny because any other year, I used to say when I was at Tech, I'm like, man, Texas Tech would trade any sort of championship for 8-4 every year in football. And now we're saying, like, what would happen if Texas Tech goes 9-3? So give us the feedback you got on X/Twitter and why this became such a hot topic debate that we're going to get into today.
Yeah, I think expectations are always such a funny thing because frustration is just unmet expectations. When you are hoping to go to a bowl game and you go 7-5, you're obviously thrilled with that season. If you're hoping to win a national title and you go 7-5, you're obviously really upset. You know, the first three responses that I got were, you know, if we don't win 10 games this season, it's an absolute bust. The next guy said, if we win 9 games in the regular season, then curb stop some overrated SEC team in a big time bowl game, that's certainly a good season. And then the final comment was, the only thing that matters is the Big 12 championship game. That's the next step. 8-4, 9-3. I don't care. However you get there, it's a good season. I don't know where I fall on this. I think if I had to set people's expectations, if you went 9-3 next year, and I don't want to skew people's opinions, that would be the best season that you've had since 2009. It's been almost 20 years since you've won 9 games. It's odd to me to think about that scenario and say best season in almost 20 years and be extremely upset with the coaching staff. But I look at this season and what the expectations are, and I don't think it's entirely irrational for people to be upset at that. I know you guys probably have some thoughts. I'm going to have some thoughts. Conrad, I mean, where are you right now? If I just told you, you know, I don't tell you how you lose the games. I don't tell you who you lose to, because I think that does play a big factor. You go 9-3. What are your immediate thoughts?
Failure. I mean, that's a failed season. You don't spend $30 million to go 9-3. I mean, that would just be that's not what we want to do this year. That's not why the players were paid what they were. That's not why you went out and did what you did in the portal recruiting. I mean, it's a failure. Like, I really don't think there's any other way to look at it. You can say it's the best season since 2009, and that's true. But then again, like I mentioned on a previous episode, it's almost a pre-NIL and post-NIL era, right? You've got to take that into consideration. So for me, anything less than a Big 12 title, you know, victory, winning the Big 12 and going to the playoff, I think it's a failure with the amount of money that's been spent and the amount of talent that's been accumulated.
Even if you go, just to push back there, if you go 11-1 and you make the Big 12 title game, is that still a failure?
Yeah, I don't think you spend $30 million to get second. Like,
I can't say that an 11-win season is a failure. That would, like, we've done that one time.
Would you, if you spent 30 million, if you were, let's just play this out. If you had donated a large sum of money,
like Clayton, if you invested in an astronomer, $30 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let's just say you invested $30 million. Like, would you be upset if you didn't win the Big 12?
I mean, if I was personally the person who put up all 30 million, maybe, but
there's not one person that put up all 30 million.
It's not, you know, in your scenario, I don't think it's like success or failure.
What if everybody else in the league spent 25 million and you spent 30 million? Does that just guarantee that you should win?
Is that the case though?
I mean, we don't know what everybody else spent.
Question. May I speak? Okay. Here's the thing, Conrad, is Cody Campbell's expectations with in seller name X donor here. Are their expectations, you better go take my money and win a championship? Maybe, probably. I don't know. I don't know what Cody Campbell's thinking. I mean, but is the fan base as a whole, like as us, as Clayton, as normal fan in section 17 at the Jones, like is that their expectation, or is 10-2 a great year and you go undefeated at home and you lose a tough game at Kansas State or, you know, at Utah, whatever? Like what's the average fan base, not necessarily who's put money into the Matador Club, should they be? You're saying they should be PO'd at 11 or at 9-3?
Yeah, I completely, I truly do. I mean, there's never been as much hype around the Texas Tech football season as this one. There's never been as much invested in a Texas Tech football season as this one. You've never had to play you always used to have to play OU in Texas. You don't play those schools anymore. You play schools that are way close to your level. This is the best opportunity you've had with the talent that's been accumulated to go actually make some noise in the national college football landscape. And if you don't do it now, I mean, I'm not saying you're never going to do it, but at the same time, this is just such a big opportunity, and there's been so much buzz that it feels like if it doesn't happen this year, like I feel like the average fan should have a reason to be disappointed because you want to win really bad, and this does feel like the best opportunity. So that's where I'd be. I don't know if I feel like you guys are disagreeing with me, but I'll happily stand there saying that that's the expectation.
So Brennan, let me add two things. So I posted a poll too on Red Raider Sports, and I gave 4 options. It was, if 9-3, is it the great season, best one in almost 20 years? That was an option. Good season, a little disappointed, but good step forward for the program. Third option was ultimately disappointed, should have been our year to make the title. And then finally was very disappointed, unacceptable outcome. It was almost evenly split between options 2 and 3. Like good season, a little disappointed, or ultimately disappointed, should have been our year to make the title. It was 41% to 45%. So people are falling pretty evenly on both sides of this debate. I think being disappointed in 9-3 and not making the title, I think I can understand. Going like 11-1, making the title and losing to a really good Baylor team or a really good TCU team or a really good Arizona team for whatever reason. Like, I don't think I will look at that season and see it as a failure. I
totally agree. Even like 10-2 and you miss the title game because of tiebreakers, like I would be disappointed that we didn't go to Arlington, but I can't call that season a failure if you win double-digit games. I definitely get the argument for 9-3, and I was going to bring up the same thing that Conrad did about UT and OU. Like you beat each of those teams 3 times between 2009 and now neither of those are on your schedule. Oklahoma State's also down. So I totally get like, if you go 9-3, that's probably going to sting a bit, especially. I don't know how y'all feel about this, but to me, it would be worse if we go 9-3 and our 3 losses are like the 3 tough road games that we've been talking about, because it would signal that like you're still not up to that point. Yeah. Like I would rather, win 1 or 2 of those games and drop one where we're clearly better than that team. We just had a bad day, because at least that would show like you can play with like the top of the conference, which we showed last year too. But I don't know how y'all feel about that.
Yeah, like I get that. I think the competition level, if you go at Manhattan, Kansas, and Kansas State just bulldozes you, and you're like, they're clearly in like all this talent and all this roster that you've accumulated does not match up to a tougher team in the conference, or Arizona State, Utah, name road game here, then yeah, that would be more disappointing to me. Even if you went like 10-2 and it was like, man, that those 2 teams were just clearly better than your roster, I'd be more disappointed in that. I think how you look against top competition matters in this debate too, because if you drop a tough road game at Utah, which is your first Big 12 game, and we're going to sit on here after going, okay, you're 0-1 in conference, is the sky falling on the season? We're going to have whatever debate we have if that happens. And it's like, okay, but how did we look against Utah? Like, did this game give me confidence that we can beat Arizona State in 2 weeks? That's something that I'm going to be looking for. But to get to the 9-3 thing, like look at Alabama last year. They are constantly filled with 5-stars NFL talent. They go 9-3, they lose at OU. Their expectation is always win championships. They haven't won a national championship since 2020, and you'd feel like these fans are going nuts. Like, it's crazy. Why haven't we won a national championship? Texas Tech, to Clayton's point, hasn't won 10+ games in 16 years. So if you go 9-3 and compete well, even with the talent that you've amassed, there's several teams that underperform. I think the question is, like, you've never been there. Are you underperforming, or are you performing to your average or above average at 9-3? Like, that record to me sounds really good. Like, if you go 9-3 and win a bowl game and have a 10-win season, I'm not extremely disappointed in that, because it hasn't happened in 16 years. It's hard for me to get to the place of I'm extremely disappointed in something that hasn't happened in over a decade and a half.
Another point that I'll make is, I think my thoughts would have changed 4 months ago. Like, let's say you were recruiting like most of the other Big 12 teams are. You're in the 50s and the 40s. And this felt like this is the only shot that we have to make the playoff and do something serious. I don't think that's the case. You're recruiting, you have the second best class in the Big 12. We are investing in the future and for the future. It is not just, this is the only season that we expect to compete in. We are spending, recruiting, and retaining talent like we expect to be a contender every single year. That makes me feel better. And not that I'm looking for a worse season, but if we had the 55th ranked class and it was kind of just like, this is it or it's bust. Yeah, obviously there's way more pressure on this season. I want bites at the apple, and I think eventually you'll get through. And that's what Kansas State did for so many years. You had so many teams that were good enough that didn't quite break through, but you do it enough times and you will break through. And that's what I'm hoping for, is that we're going to consistently develop teams and build teams that can contend. You're not going to win it every year. OU didn't win it every year. Texas only won it once, and they spent more money than anybody. I just don't know that. I don't know that my expectations are Big 12 title or bust, even though my hope, and this is the first year that I think I can confidently say this, that we have a legitimate shot at winning it, and I think we should do everything in our power to do so.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point about us building for the future, right? We are recruiting extremely well, like you just mentioned, but recruiting can, you can have players that don't pan out. And so I'm not saying that that's going to happen with any of the guys that we've taken. I think they all seem like really solid prospects, and I'm really excited they're coming to Texas Tech. But I just don't know that I can get to a place of being like, well, if we don't win it this year, we're okay, especially because these guys that we have on our roster that transferred in are not, well, we'll see kind of guys. Like, they're validated college players, right? I mean, David Bailey's a superstar at the college level. I mean, you've got, Reggie Virgil, who was very good at Miami of Ohio. You've got Romello Hyde. I mean, these guys played other places and didn't necessarily have to enter the portal, and we got them here even after they came into the portal. And so they're going to start for you. They're going to be contributors for you. And so my thought is, if you don't do it now with all the age on your team and how old this team is, when are you going to do it? Not that you can't, but this mix, I just think it's unique. I think it's special. And that's why I guess my expectations are so high, is because of all of those factors lumped into one thing. And so I will be disappointed, quite frankly. And I think they will be too. Like, that's the thing, is I think Joey and staff will be very disappointed. I think the donors will be very disappointed if we don't at least get to Arlington. I'd be disappointed if we didn't win, because that would hurt, because we'd be so close. But
yeah, because if you're there, you might as well win.
I think the people on the inside and the administration would be very dejected if you don't win after all that's gone into this. So that's where I am. I think that's fair. Honestly,
that's fair. And Texas Tech has said as much, right? I mean, everybody agrees, I think, with you on that. If Texas Tech does not make the Big 12 title game, then their expectations were not met. The people in the building have said as much. So, but again, dude, it's just like the hype. Like, I know we run the Kool-Aid factory for Texas Tech, but it's very difficult to just like get myself to start drinking again.
Yeah.
I'm just nervous. Like, I just have to see it. And so I don't want to set the expectations on the feeling of like, that's so hard to do. And I want to enjoy I want to enjoy week to week of like, okay, we have like to Z's point, we're finally good enough, it seems, on paper to compete for a Big 12 title game. We really haven't had a roster to do that in several years. So, but we do have one now. And like, what does that journey look like? What does the competition look like? And there's no moral victories. I get that. But if you're building a program, which you're trying to do, this year could be a huge stepping stone. And if that means getting to Arlington, great. If it means winning, which I hope they do, great. But if it means that you showed you belong and that you can bring talent to Lubbock, compete on the field, and get to a really good bowl game and go 9-3, I don't think that's a total failure, in my opinion.
I wholeheartedly agree. Another thing, and I know I've talked a little bit, I don't want, and this is what I'm worried about, because you're plus 600 to win the conference. That is like 16-ish percentage chance. So that's very less than likely. I don't want fans to be out on this program if that isn't what we achieve this year. I think you're going to have a really good team. You're playing in a conference with 15 other teams that are going to try to win the league. There's weird tiebreakers when you only play 9 games. You can be a really good team, and a couple, you miss a field goal, you fumble a snap, things happen in this game that are stupid and unexpected. I don't want people to be out on this program given the level of alignment that I see right now. This is the most positive momentum that I've seen for now and the future that I've ever gotten to witness
Agreed.
as my time as a Tech fan. And I don't want a 9-3 season or a 10-2 season to say I'm out on this coaching staff. I just think that's not necessarily unfair pressure, but we're going to play football again in 2026. You know, we're going to kick off and we're going to play again in 2027. And like, I'm going to still support. It's not going to be an abject failure if we don't accomplish our ultimate goal this year. You just have to see them. You know, 8-4 to me would be a massive failure, but you've got to see. I just want to see us look like we belong. Dream no little dreams, but I'm not going to be out on this staff if we go 9-3, we go 10-2. It's the best. And I had somebody text me this the other day because we were talking about the Red River Sports stuff, and they said, when you evaluate coaches, one of the best things that you can look at is what was the program like when they entered, and what would it be like if they left tomorrow? And Joey, over all the coaches that we've had, even since Mike Leach, I think you can unequivocally say he would be leaving the program in a better position than he found it. He has elevated our stature and our status far above any sort of hype outside of 2008. He's just done a really good job building the program, and he doesn't get enough credit for that. And I'm just really in on this staff. Now they got to show it on the field. They do. But I'll get off my soapbox and let somebody else talk. But those are just kind of some of my thoughts there.
I completely agree. And I was listening to just a general college football podcast, Solid Verbal. I think they're Oregon fans, and they were previewing the Big 12, and they basically had the same sentiment that you said. They were saying that like this year is just the tip of the iceberg for Tech. And like they weren't really fully buying into us winning the conference this year, but they felt like 3 years down the line, like we could be consistently at the top of the league, which was encouraging because I do feel like the sentiment among Tech fans is like, this is our one shot to get it. If it doesn't happen, it's never going to happen, which is interesting the way we're recruiting. Like I don't have the recruiting pulled up right now, but I guarantee if you looked at like 247's our all-time recruits, that a lot of the highest ranked recruits we've ever gotten have been in Joey's tenure in like the last 3 years.
100%.
Yeah, Mike and Felix are both the two highest rated recruits we've ever gotten.
And I think, Clayton, to that point, like being cautiously optimistic here, I think is good because it is a hype train. And it's just kind of like with Micah, right? A year ago, you get Micah, Joey's coming in saying he's going to be the best player in the roster, and it didn't necessarily pan out that way. So even though they're saying these things and, you know, the names on paper look to be great, but do they mesh together well? Like there's still things you got to see. The game still has to be played. And I think for me, it's like as much as I want to believe that this is the year you're going to do it, I would much rather see to that point, you're building a program that's going to like push this year, hopefully win, but then arrive and stay and say like, we now are going to be in the top 3 odds every year because we're building a foundation that's going to compete for titles every single year. I think if you're a fan out there and you're saying it's 2025 or bust, I mean, that would suck. Like if you're putting all your eggs in this year's basket and you're utterly disappointed after the fact, if we don't win a Big 12 title and you're going to start saying fire X, do this, whatever. I just don't necessarily think that's the right way to look at it, in my opinion. I feel like this is an opportunity to build 2025 into the future, you know, so our children's children are celebrating Natties. Or I guess your children, Zyler and Conrad.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, and I don't want fans to hear me wrongly and say if I think, you know, we should get rid of the staff, start over if we don't win it all this year. That's not what I think at all. I think this staff is, I mean, like Zyler said, I mean, Joey in particular, but also even the other coaches. I mean, it seems like a really special group, and obviously it has to be shown on the field. But I do think that the amount of pressure, like I don't want to minimize this year, and I'm not saying y'all are doing that, but I feel I kind of feel a tendency to that. You know, like I'm not really thinking about 2026, 2027 right now. It's like, this is just such a special mix, it seems, that I don't want to necessarily say, well, we went 9-3. Well, that's okay. There's 2026. It's like, no, like, I mean, yeah, there is 2026, but at the same time, it's like all this money was not spent for 2026. It was spent for 2025. Right. Like, and so I don't want to minimize this year, but I'm not going to say like you should start it all over. That's not the case. So you're obviously building something. I just don't want to, maybe y'all would push back on that, but I don't want to minimize 2025.
Well, and I don't think what I'm saying is I'm not trying to minimize 2025 or the expectations. What I think I'm saying is, to answer the question, is 9-3 an utter or the total disaster of a season and a failure? I
Is it a
would look at
failure?
I would look at it and say not necessarily. Like, for me, it's dependent. By the way, when we do here in a couple weeks our season predictions and all that stuff, I think we will be better than 9-3. So I don't have disbelief that we're not going to do so. But I'm speaking from the question of the argument that I don't think we should look at that as a total failure. Doesn't mean that I think we're going to be worse than that. I believe I'll be sitting in Cowboys Stadium next to Jerry December 7th watching us kick TCU's butt. I believe that, but I'll hold off on my prediction till then. I just don't think it's a total failure.
It's wild to me, and this is another great way to frame it. If you look at Bill Conley's second order win projections, our team was closer to a 5-win team than they were an 8-win team last year. The way that I think about it is, what kind of talent would I have needed to see Cincinnati add to their roster for me to think if they don't win the Big 12 title, it's a complete and total failure? And I know everybody thinks, you were just an 8-win team last year. You just got to find 2 more wins. I think everybody that watched the team knew that you were not lucky, but you were fortunate to get some of the bounces that you did and get to 8 wins. And when you evaluate it like that, like if I was just looking at Cincinnati and thinking, how many players would they have to add to their roster where I would think, oh my goodness, that team has to win it all? And that's where I kind of frame a lot of this stuff. Additionally, it's just wild to me to think that Vegas thinks that you're an 8.5 win team. You got the 5th best odds. And if we overperform that expectation and got to 9 wins, that there would be a lot of anger. And I think it's fine to be disappointed. I don't want people to be not angry, because you want to be invested in the team. I don't want people to be out on the coaching staff if you exceed what Vegas thinks your team is. And I know they set their own expectations. I think they'd be disappointed too. I just don't want I don't know. I think this is going to sound stupid. I don't want the turmoil.
Clayton, I hear to that point. So let's say you didn't bring in any of these guys, but you had this roster. So let's say let's say it's 2015 homegrown talent. This is all of the guys, and you just had the roster you have. So you see all the talent, they're all the same, but you didn't pay $30 million for them or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they go 9-3. You're probably not disappointed. And I think my point is, we would be more disappointed by the fact of knowing the money we spent to bring them with the expectation to win a championship.
That's the issue. That's
the issue here, really, because it's not about necessarily the player or the talent. I believe if you just were handed a roster, you looked at it and you saw some tape, and then they win 9 out of 12 games, you'd probably be pretty happy. You'd be like, all right, that was a good season. It's the pressure that was put on from the portal, which is why the expectation is you've got to go win a Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, I think that's totally it. That's
I was speaking of Clayton, but I mean, you guys can talk over him. That's fine.
That's totally it.
I do agree with you, although I don't know. Like, I still feel like people would expect a championship, or at least make a championship, even if this whole team had come up through Tech. Aside from, like, it's hard to think about this question because if we had the same team and
you wouldn't have
last year, you should be better. So it's hard to think about it, but I get what you're saying.
I guess the point I'm getting at, and Conrad, I'll go to you now. I apologize. Like, is the money associated with the roster the reason for the expectation? Like, is that the reason?
That's a great question.
Is it the talent, or is it the money, the dollar figure associated on why the expectation is so high?
I'd say it's probably 60-40, 60% money, 40% talent. I mean, because the talent is obvious. We don't need to discuss that. We've discussed that ad nauseum. The problem is what was invested. And when you invest any type of money in anything, whether it's stocks, a business, whatever it is, you're committing yourself to saying, like, I expect something from this. Like, you wouldn't invest money as a donor base, as a coaching staff, if you didn't expect a return to come from it, right? Like, you don't invest something being like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess this will be okay. I mean, that's just not the way you do it. And so I think you invest this money, and because of all this money invested, the people who invested the money have reason to expect something. And because the fans, with the way media is now, know about all of it, how could you not think, oh, well, we spent X, we should get, this in return? Yeah. I think that's a big part of it. For me, that frames a lot how I think of it. And I think that has framed a lot how Red Raider Nation has thought about this whole thing.
the longer I'm thinking about it, I will push back. I do think it is kind of rooted in the roster as well. Like, I think if NIL weren't a thing and you landed the number one transfer portal class, like, On3 has us at 100 and transfer portal. I think you have like the third or fourth best in average player rating. PFF posted that graphic of like top 10 defenses and Tech is on it. I think if all of those things were happening and money like was not part of the equation, I think a lot of fans would still have championship aspirations for this season.
Sure.
And
But it heightens the money heightens it. The money takes it to a different level because of how it is now.
Yeah.
One thing I will push back on the money, why I know that we made moves, but none of that's coming from inside the house. That is from other reporters that are doing that. This is not the case. Like the 2023 team where Joey was really hyping it up. He's done like 10% of that amount of hype. Now, granted, we haven't gotten to pressers and media availability, but that the hype is not coming from inside the house. The hype is coming from alleged people talking about our roster saying this is allegedly what it costs. And we have no frame of reference as to what Baylor had to pay to keep Sawyer Robertson and Josh Cameron and Bryson Washington and Dawson. Like all those programs like to imagine that people just stay there because they love the culture and they love living in Waco. I'm here to tell you that it's not true. Like they had to invest significant amount. All these people said they invested at least $20 million and they maxed out on the revenue sharing. They have at least $20 million rosters, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Ours was reported at 28.5. It's not like we were playing against like $8 million rosters. Ours is just the only one that's out there in the public.
So the difference is that I think with those schools, you're looking at a lot of different things, but I think with Texas Tech specifically, the reason you're not hearing a lot from inside is because I think that maybe we've realized from past experiences we probably should not have given as much noise from the outside coming into the outside world. I think we've probably learned our lesson there. Like, let's just keep our heads down and work. I think that could be a reason why. But that's just my speculation from that point of view.
I want to push back on the notion that other Big 12 teams don't invest heavily into their roster. Like TCU and Baylor absolutely did. Kansas State, Arizona State absolutely did.
I'm not saying they didn't, but the fact that we have the media's portrayed us the way that we have is what has created the expectations that we have.
I also think in the transfer
I'm not
portal,
going to take a media expectation as to how I'm going to feel about this. Like,
I think that's going to affect how like 99% of Tech fans are going to view the team, though.
I know, and I want to push back against that you're allowing Pete Nakos, God love him, or Ross Dellinger to tell you what your expectations should be of this team.
That's fair, but also in the transfer portal, like the player rankings, you landed as many 4-star transfers as the rest of the conference combined. Like I think,
but your roster kind of stunk last year. Like in certain areas, like our defensive line was just like we had so much to do to catch up to everybody. In my mind.
That's definitely
starting John Carlos Miller at defensive edge at some points throughout the end of the year.
I'm going to say this. Yeah, John Carlos Miller was taking snaps at defensive end.
Yeah.
Our starting tight end.
I think
Sterling
that's why I'm so bullish
starting snaps
on this season. Like I was going back looking through and I posted this on Red Raider Sports. Like we had a 14-point lead or more in 8 games last year, and we could not close anyone out because we had a tight end rushing the quarterback, and they would once they have to start throwing every down, they're going to score. Like I went back and watched the Iowa State game. I forgot that we went on that 92-yard drive to take the lead, and then we gave up a 50-yard touchdown to a guy that had caught 4 passes the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And that was regularly happening all year.
Yeah.
You would think if you just replace those with a slightly above average defensive players, like a lot of that changes. But
yeah,
well, and the depth was I mean, on the offensive line and defensive line, based due to injury and then lack of talent. I mean, the depth was not good last year.
It really was injury. I'm not ragging on a lot of those guys. You put 18-year-olds out there against 23-year-olds, it's just going to be really tough. You were just really injured on those in the trenches last year.
And that played a big factor in the season, though, too.
Okay, so
which I think we'd agree.
2 things. One, it's just funny because we're going to talk about this for the next month and a half leading into the season, and everyone, by the time week 1 kicks off, you're expecting to go 12-0. And so I think it's funny because, this is just like a complete hypothetical what if, but I'm going to go and ask the question so we can get all the answers. So is 9-3 a failure for Texas Tech? Yes or no?
I think it is failure, but it's not like a catastrophic failure where I'll lose all faith in the coaching staff.
Failure's too harsh of a word for me. I think it's a mild disappointment, but I'm going to enjoy the heck out of a 9-3 season.
Okay.
You say that until we're getting beat by Oregon State week 3.
Yeah, I know. Hey, if I can pick the 3 losses, give me Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State, and then let us just go 3.
Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine? Now that would be an utter failure.
Yeah.
We lose to Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Like, I anyway.
There's things. Yeah, there's things we're not allowed to say on air that would happen probably.
Yeah. No, I'll say yes, but if you go 9-3, you're not going to find me angry or I'll be disappointed, but like I'm not. 9-3 is still an improvement, but I just don't think it's what anyone should expect. I don't think it's what anyone should be happy with, and I know certainly that the staff and the players will not be happy with 9-3.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun to talk about because we're going to keep going about it, but I want to get to what needs to happen with the quarterback position for you to go to Arlington, and how important is Behren Morton's arm for your success this year and maybe being better than 9-3. And I want to pose a question like this. Is Behren Morton the X factor for Texas Tech winning a Big 12 championship? And or will Behren Morton be the reason Texas Tech does not win a Big 12 championship? Clayton, I want to go to you first.
Yeah, y'all were talking about Behren on the last episode, which got me thinking because you brought up if you're down with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, has he really been that guy? And I went back through his entire career, looked at basically every game that was within one score in the fourth, and he's actually been pretty clutch. I feel like the bigger question with him is consistency from game to game and also within the game, because a lot of these that I'll go through, he had huge lulls in the second, third quarter. But 2022, his first start at Oklahoma State, that was within a score in the fourth and turned it over on downs 3 straight times in Oklahoma State territory. So that's a fail, but that's his first start.
And he was injured in the second half.
Yeah, he did get hurt.
As well. Yeah.
West Virginia, the next season after Shuck got hurt, Behren also got hurt in this game. Offense literally did nothing, but then he did drive them down to the West Virginia 11, just wasn't able to punch it in. But then after that, it's a lot of actual successes, versus TCU. He had a 92-yard touchdown drive to go up 14, basically seal that game. Kansas, after the offense did nothing, he had that 63-yard field goal drive to win. With the 30-yard pass to Bradley.
To Bradley.
Yeah. UCF, that was a game in the fourth quarter. He had 2 different drives to go up by 7 and then ran the clock out with 5 minutes left. ACU this last year, he scored a touchdown in overtime. Arizona State, he scored in both the drives in fourth. Cincinnati, he scored in all 3 drives in the second half. Arizona, he had the game-winning touchdown drive, also had the field goal drive to go up whenever Douglas dropped a touchdown. And then Iowa State, he had that 98-yard touchdown drive and then the game winner. Colorado was abysmal. He had 5 drives in the fourth, scored on one of them. And then Oklahoma State, where he scored all 3 drives. So I actually think he's fairly clutch. I think the problem is consistency from start to finish of a game, and then also just having really bad game, 1 or 2 bad games throughout the season.
That's actually way better than I thought it was going to be. I've obviously unfairly maligned Behren for not being very clutch. I think you're right to point out the second and the third quarter performances, in my mind. Once again, maybe my anecdotes are not quite as sharp as I thought they were, but it seems like he's had those really good in the first quarter, I guess pretty good in the fourth quarter, second and third, been a little bit tougher for him. But yeah, Brennan, to your question, I think he's good enough to win you a title. I really do. If the Eagles can win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, we can win a Big 12 title with Behren Morton. So that's how I think. I mean, worse quarterbacks have won Big 12 titles than Behren Morton. So I think he's good enough. I think he's right there on the edge, though. I think if he's 5 to 10% worse, I maybe don't feel good enough.
Okay, that leaves you, Conrad, and I know where this is going, so go ahead.
I mean, it's tough because I think when you have talent that's added to an offense, especially on the offensive line around a quarterback that's been above average his entire career, you would think that if you add talent there, you should see an improvement at the quarterback position, right? That would be the logical outcome. That's on paper. Obviously, you have to do it on the field. I mean, it's not going to shock me if he comes out and gets way better than what he was last year. That's not going to surprise me at all. But I think even if he's the same as he was last year, he will. I think that would win you a Big 12 title.
Yeah, and I think really I'm posing the question because Clayton did such a great deep dive, and I thought it was interesting. And it's hard to judge Barron because last year he was finally healthy for 12 games, had an effective season.
He was not healthy last year.
Kind of had that shoulder issue.
He was not.
He played all 12 games.
Sorry, you're right. In terms of he played in 12 games, which doesn't so healthy for a Texas Tech quarterback health.
Yeah.
If that's what we're averaging it out. But it is kind of like, well, we haven't really seen him fully healthy and what he's capable of, and there have been moments where he's looked great, but there's been lulls, and you can say, well, is it the offensive line, is it the coordinator, etc. It just seems like this is the year where there won't be an excuse, where we really will get to see if he is the reason you do go 11-1, or if he's the reason you go 8-4. Like, it does feel like that we'll really get to know this year what that answer is. And I think that's good because that means you have a lot of talent around him, because if you didn't, you'd be like, well, it's really not Barron's fault. He doesn't have an offensive line. The defense is going to suck. No skill positions that are that good. Like, all those boxes are checked. So it really is kind of like, to me, I'm going to be looking out for, like, has Barron improved where he is now what we would classify as a gamer? Like, we talked about Rocco Becht, and you beat Rocco last year. He's not necessarily the most stat line efficient quarterback, but you watch him play and you're like, this guy, if I had 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and I needed a guy that would just like will the team to get down the field, I'd pick Rocco maybe over any quarterback in the conference. And it's could Barron kind of? I really think,
dude, he was
without
you pick Rocco
Noel and
over
Higgins.
Sawyer and Josh and Sam Levitt.
I'd pick. I'm just talking. Maybe not. Maybe Josh Hoover. I would put Rocco in the top 3. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, and I'm not necessarily saying, I'm not saying he's a top 3. What I'm saying is, like, the will to get your like the gamer type mentality of, like, I'm gonna go down, swing it, like I'm gonna fight for the 3rd and 11. I'm gonna bust my chops to get to the marker or whatever it is. I just feel like I want to see some of that from Barron this season of, like, I will the team to consistent drives and tough, drawn out, like, we're not getting off the field. And that's all I'm really saying.
I think this year's the best year that I mean, I don't think there are any excuses for Barron at this point. I mean, I think the missing spring, I think that'd be a little bit different if he was a sophomore, but he's a senior. He's a 5th-year senior. So I don't know that there's really any excuses for him in terms of this is the most talent you've ever had around you. You don't have Taj, but you have a much improved offensive line. At least you've got good receiver pieces. I mean, I think you're finally going to get to have a honest, fair evaluation of Barron Morton as a quarterback. I think you're going to get that.
I hope so.
Yeah,
and I think
that's what I'm saying.
And I think that's completely fair for people to expect. And I think that's probably what he expects of himself too, because I think he's probably sitting here looking like, man, I've finally got an offensive line that I can actually have some type of confidence in. And so I think when you have that and you've got a wide open offense like we're going to see, I think you have an opportunity as a fan to really see, okay, has this Barron Morton experiment really matured into what we hope is a Big 12 title? Because people forget, again, you took Barron Morton over Sawyer Robertson in that class. They're in the same class. Sawyer's from Lubbock. And there were some people that wanted Texas Tech to take Sawyer and over Barron. And so I'm not sure if Sawyer would have come here. Well, Sawyer wanted to play for Leach, which is what he went to do at Mississippi State. But you've just got that kind of lurking in the background as well, not to add another level of drama, but I think that's factored into what you've seen with some people being happy with Barron, some people not being happy with Barron, thinking, well, what if we could have this guy? And so I think this year you're finally going to get a fair chance to evaluate what Barron Morton is as a quarterback.
Yeah, well said. We'll see, man. I'm excited. We've got a month and change left until we get to see Barron Morton start at quarterback, so it's going to be a lot of fun, but we'll see. I don't know. The jury's still out in my end there, but we'll see. So, okay, let's get to Tommy Tuberville's of the week. Can I start? I never start. I want to start.
Ladies first.
Well said, because I'm going to the ladies, actually. WNBA.
I knew you were.
That was a wonderful transition.
That's why I said that.
Dude, the WNBA players continue, the hatred towards Caitlin Clark continues to just perplex me. It is one of the most baffling things I've actually seen in sports. I think it was Kelsey Plum, who I have no idea who she is, but she gives a press conference, and they wear these shirts that says "Pay us what you owe us" or what at the All-Star game, which was a total dud. Girls are bricking shots everywhere. They implemented 4-point shots. It was not. I saw clips of it on like memes of like in case you missed it, and it was all these bricked shots from the WNBA All-Star game. But they do this. They wear these shirts, and then they just go and continue to bash Caitlin Clark, like as in she is not the reason that you are single-handedly getting to fly private now, that a new CBA is being negotiated. And I'm just baffled by the fact that they are not thankful. Maybe I shouldn't be baffled, but it is beyond my comprehension. If Zyler got poached by ESPN to bring us along and they signed us to a $50 million deal, and I went up and said, screw Zyler. He wears a backwards hat, man. And there's no reason this lunatic should be here, whatever. But I'm riding the coattails of that. That's so dumb. I just cannot. They're my frauds of the year. Maybe they might become my Shedeur Sanders for Conrad. Like, I just cannot get over it. It irks me so much. So go Caitlin Clark, and the rest of the WNBA players, get in line. I know Angel Reese listens to this show. Get in line.
I completely agree. I actually thought about doing the WNBA for mine. They couldn't even stop beating her up like to let her play in the WNBA. She got injured, and the ticket prices dropped by half.
Dude, they were flying. They were flying Spirit Airlines before Caitlin Clark. They were literally playing bumper cars in the sky until Caitlin Clark. Now they get to fly NetJets or whatever they do. Like, relax. It's just, I don't understand. Did you also hear about them trying to go clubbing after the All-Star game, and they got into line in the club?
How locked in are you to the WNBA?
Brennan, you should start a WNBA podcast.
Okay, this is actually really funny.
This is all news to me.
They were trying to go clubbing after the All-Star game, and the bouncer at the club was like, no. Like, it was like Angel Reese, like, but I'm a WN player. And he was like, get in line. They weren't allowed into the club. They would have thought there was like LeBron James going to the front of the line and be like, yo, let me in. I booked a table. It's hilarious.
The video that Angel Reese posted in Indiana, the caption said like, walk in your trap, take over your trap. It's just a video of her driving up to like 5 fans and like someone's drunk uncle. And she thinks that she's like a legend driving around the streets with like people coming out in droves.
They're all my Tommies. Every single WNBA player except Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are my Tommy Tubervilles of the year. Okay. That's it. There you go. You guys can take it now. My rant is over.
That's the longest tummy of the year.
That was.
Sorry, I've been building. It's been building up for a couple of weeks. So
that's
hilarious.
Next? I'll go. Tony Petitti is quickly moving up my conference commissioner hate list. I see why they have locked him in a closet and not let him do media appearances. He had to get up and vouch for his 4-4-2-2-1. Whatever it is, whatever the big thing that he's pushing, 4-4-2-2-2-1, whatever it is. And he was talking about why Big Ten teams to deserve to do that, because they're like, well, the 6th place Big Ten team could get in. That'd be an 8-win team most years. And he's like, well, I mean, if you look at the NFL, if you extrapolate those percentages, that would probably be a team that makes the postseason. What's the big deal if you stumble once in the non-conference and then go 6-3 in the Big Ten? That should be a playoff team. And that team last year was Iowa. And I don't know that anybody was clamoring to see Iowa in the postseason. They went 6-3 in the Big Ten and lost to Iowa State. And that would be a potential playoff team if he gets his way. He did a terrible job. The media turned on him. He was horrible at the mic. Just not for all the crap I give Greg Sankey. Sankey at least engages and is a really sharp individual. Petiti is very much used to boardrooms and not dealing with the media. He is my Tommy Tuberville of the week, and that's all I have.
I love it.
Another good choice. I'll go next because mine is similar to Zyler's. I actually think this might be a 2-time winner. I'm pretty sure I gave him one a while back, but my Tommy is Curt Cignetti, Indiana football coach. I can't believe he's going to have me defending the SEC, but Indiana canceled a non-conference game with Virginia, known ACC powerhouse, and he cited that it was because he's going to the SEC model of scheduling, where it's just all cupcakes and you go 4-0. And like I said, I can't believe I'm coming to the defense of the SEC, but like, you know, Auburn is playing Baylor, Florida's playing Miami, LSU's playing Clemson, OU's playing Michigan, Texas playing Ohio State, A&M playing Notre Dame. And he's canceling a game with a team that has a win total of 6.5 in a garbage ACC without playing Clemson, Miami, or SMU, and citing that it's because he's going to the SEC model. So Curt Cignetti, you are yet another 2-time Tommy Tuberville winner of the week.
That's a good one. That leaves you, Mr. Mills.
Yeah, my Tommy Tuberville, the fans are going to think that I'm lazy, right? I picked Shedeur Sanders for I don't even know how long. And the reason for that is very obvious. I try and pick such obvious candidates for my Tommy Tuberville of the week because I don't want to. I want them to just be so universally accepted. When you hear the name Shedeur Sanders, you think, "Yep, that's Conrad Mills' Tommy Tuberville of the year." Until he wasn't. And this new Tommy Tuberville of the year, maybe the decade, maybe the century, is a place that I think all of us are pretty familiar with to some degree or another. It's a place that all of us have been at some point in our life. It's a place that has a lot of different nicknames. It's a place that does a lot of different things that sometimes just don't make sense. And because of one of the things that they did that didn't make sense, that will not be named on this podcast because we believe in the purity of the Broadway Shuffle. Baylor University, you are my Tommy Tuberville again, and you always will be. So Baylor University, Baylor Bears, the green and gold, you are my Tommy Tuberville of the year.
Oh, wow, of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll never stop.
Halfway
Distinct
through
honor.
the year, you're already giving it out.
Or it's July.
Giving out
It's
the
July. I can't not. So Baylor University.
That's a good one, but I think my rant wins Tommy
Did I
Tuberville
leave
rant
you
of the year.
speechless?
In fact, make sure to like. In fact, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my new YouTube channel, the WNBA Players Suck Except Caitlin Clark. You can find it on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast. I'll be launching the first episode. I'll record one tonight. I'll launch it tomorrow. I'll get all the brand. I'll get it all ready to go. My first guest will be Caitlin Clark. So no, I kid. I digress. Well, boys, that was a lot of fun. We'll be back on Monday, and we are about a couple weeks away for. I'm just going to say something very special, and we are inching closer to our 100th episode, and I will leave it at that. But there are a lot of fun things in the works that we are getting to for August, leading into football season. We cannot wait to bring it all to you. So if you have been a regular shuffler for a while and you are waiting for something to pop, it will be happening soon. So we will leave it there, and we will see you next time on the Broadway Shuffle. Wreck 'em.